Welcome to the Success Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Christian Evans. This podcast is for women and men over 30 who wants to achieve success in their fitness journey. And I'm going to help you do just that. But first, I got to ask you, are you somebody like me who suffers from high blood pressure and you're looking for one of the natural ways to alleviate that? Well, I came across this article on eatingwell.com on how watermelon can help reduce your high blood pressure. I'm going to get into this article plus much more, but first, a word from our sponsors.
Are you looking for a personal trainer that will focus on you to help achieve success in your fitness journey? If yes, please book your in-person or Zoom one-on-one personal training sessions with me, Christian Evans, at christiansweightsuccess.net.
Thank you for tuning in to the Success Fitness Podcast. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you lending your ears to me during this brief moment in time. The number one food to eat to lower blood pressure, according to a dietitian. I came across this article on eatingwell.com, and surprisingly, it's watermelon. Watermelon is one of the best foods to naturally combat high blood pressure. Now, I've loved watermelon since I can remember. If you've been following me, or since you've been following me, you pretty much know or seen pictures of me juicing watermelon, cutting a watermelon. I even have YouTube videos of how to cut watermelon, a tutorial. I remember it was maybe summer 2020 or 2021, somewhere around there, right? Couldn't say 2020 because that's when the pandemic, nobody was moving around then. But I remember going into my uncle's in the Chicagoland area, and he just blew my mind on how he sliced a watermelon, how he cut a watermelon. And it took me about 2 years to process that on how to actually cut it. But I posted that. That was one of my highest engaged videos a few years ago. But I believe I mastered that. But anyway, if you've seen any of my videos, like I said, I have some tutorials on how to cut watermelon and how to juice it, and also my watermelon fruit smoothie. But the story behind even going that far with watermelon is that when I would Google back in 2013, 2014, when I was on my juicing journey, I would always Google what are the benefits of said fruit, said vegetable or produce that I was, getting ready to juice, right? And watermelon had a lot of benefits. It had benefits of lowering blood pressure. Fellas, it's also nature's Viagra. And tell you the God honest truth. So you can actually read on that. And there's different amino acids in it, right? There's different amino acids in it that increases blood flow. And I'm going to get into this article. I'm going to read it off for you so you can understand where I'm coming from, and I'll also have this linked in the description just as well. I'll also have my videos of cutting a watermelon, my watermelon fruit smoothie, and just different things that you can do with a watermelon that can help you lower your high blood pressure. If you are a listener that has high blood pressure, this is a podcast for you. This is a podcast for you. This is a podcast that will help you take one step forward to, getting a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more information on the things that you can do from a natural point of view, from a natural state, from a holistic view, onto lower your blood pressure. So let's get right into it. You know what? I've been jonesing for pizza lately, but I'm trying to get better at eating better, not eating out so much, and subscribing to the we got food at home mentality. So I chose to cook what I bought from Sam's. Salmon prices have been so high, but Sam's had it $5 off today. Last week, I found a bag of quinoa there for about $8. Since my vegetable supply of meal prep was running low, I also picked up some fresh broccoli. By the time I realized it, I had cooked everything in my e-cookbook, What to Meal Prep for Beginners. Not only will you get 3 recipes for one high-protein meal under 600 calories, you'll also get a free workout ebook. Get 10% off when you sign up to my weekly newsletter. The link will be in the description and the link tree in my bio. Download your copy today. The number one food to eat to lower blood pressure, according to a dietitian. While there are a lot of healthy foods that can help lower blood pressure, watermelon is one of the best. Naturally combating high blood pressure by eating foods like watermelon is a simple way to support health. As a registered dietitian, one of the top questions I get is, what should I eat to lower my blood pressure? Since over 100 million Americans have high blood pressure, according to the American Heart Association, it's no wonder that finding a natural remedy is a popular request. While there are many foods that are known to be a good choice for those managing their blood pressure, the food I recommend most often to help lower blood pressure, tastes great, is affordable, and is easily accessible: watermelon. While watermelon may not be the top of mind when it comes to blood pressure management, it's a food that checks so many necessary boxes. Yes, that juicy and sweet treat that drips down from your arm when you take a bite or sip can be an effective remedy to help manage blood pressure. Here's why. The red and refreshing fruit that is loved by many is not only sweet and satisfying to eat, but it may offer some serious health benefits when it comes to blood pressure. Specifically, watermelon is one of the best foods to help support a healthy blood pressure because it's a naturally sweet treat that doesn't contain added sugars, and it is rich in 3 blood pressure supporting nutrients: L-citrulline, lycopene, and potassium. When your heart pumps blood through your body, the force causes pressure against your blood vessels. Having a healthy blood pressure means that the force of your blood pushing against these walls of your blood vessels is not too strong or high. However, if the force is too high and causes too much pressure over time, you may be diagnosed with high blood pressure. The goal should be to take steps to lower blood pressure to a healthy range to prevent further complications. To naturally lower blood pressure, it is often recommended to follow a diet that is lower in sodium, added sugars, and saturated fats. Additionally, it is recommended to focus on foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and nuts, foods that have been shown to lower blood pressure in certain situations. The good news is that there are lots of foods that can help lower blood pressure, so there are plenty of options to enjoy throughout the year. Now, when I first began my juicing journey in 2013, I would always Google what is the benefits of said fruit or vegetable that I was juicing or getting ready to juice, just to see what they were. You know, nothing in specific that I was looking for at the time, but that system of questioning and wondering and being curious about what it is that I was intaking increased. That tends to happen when you're on your fitness journey. You're like, okay, what does this do? What does this do? What are the benefits of this? What are the benefits of that? This is why Google is so important. It's essential. It's so essential. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago just about knowing that you have the power. you have the power, and I think I titled it, "You Have the Right to Remain Silent," because there are times where, you know, people can talk. People can give opinions about things they do not know when you have the power of Google in your hand, or whatever search engine you use. But the popular one is obviously Google. That way you can find the answers to whatever you may have a question on. So I would use Google often. And when it came to watermelon, I found all of these benefits that can help lower blood pressure, increases blood flow, and it yielded a lot of juice too. I was, balling on a budget back then in regards to trying to find a cheaper fruit that can yield the most amount of liquid, the most amount of juice. And a watermelon did it. So there are plenty of benefits, but one of them, since we're talking here, is to help lower blood pressure because it also increases blood flow throughout the body. Back to the article. Watermelon is rich in amino acids, which may help support healthy blood pressure. Watermelon isn't just a pretty food with a sweet taste. This fruit is one of the best sources of L-citrulline, an amino acid that may help maintain healthy blood flow. In fact, one study published in the American Journal of Hypertension found that watermelon could significantly reduce blood pressure in overweight individuals, both at rest and while under stress, partially due to the effects of L-citrulline. L-citrulline specifically helps encourage a healthy blood pressure by producing nitric oxide, a gas that relaxes blood vessels and supports flexibility in arteries. These effects help the flow of blood, which may lower high blood pressure. Watermelon consumption has specifically been linked to a decrease in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Now, when this article talks about nitrous oxide, I went down a rabbit hole a couple weeks ago about nitrous oxide and some of the scientific studies of nitrous oxide in the body. Now, you may hear nitrous oxide and think of Fast and Furious. You may think of Need for Speed video game, right? I remember playing Need for Speed video game back in the day, and you would just hit this kind of like turbo button, right? And this nitrous oxide, your nitrous oxide levels, once they got to like 100%, it would just make the car go fast, right? And you hear that association with nitrous oxide in order to, in association to vehicles and speed. And this is not the same nitrous oxide. This is not the same nitrous oxide that you put in a car that you put in your body, right? So this article I went down, and hopefully I can have it linked in here. I'm just speaking off the top of my head right now, just going off of memory, is that there were some in the community amongst these scientists, there were talks about this nitrous oxide not being good for you. And in all actuality, nitrous oxide was prevalent in a lot of root vegetables and a lot of fruits like watermelon that you see here. And this nitrous oxide helps with blood pressure. It helps relieve blood pressure. And it was just this correlation that was very interesting, how you can see one side of an argument or one side of a belief that, hey, this isn't good for you. But when you break it down to it, it's like, okay, you got to ask questions of how much, right? And the amount of nitrous oxide that those that were on the opposing side were talking about was such an astronomical amount that no human would be able to actually consume that. And just nitrous oxide in the form of food, in the form of what food that you eat or ate, and the digestion process, and the nitrous oxide that resulted out of that were actually beneficial for you. And it was just one of those things to where, again, you go down these rabbit holes because you are looking for foods that can help lower blood pressure, foods that can help just increase, blood flow. And you just come across just different articles. And that's why it's so important to just read. It's so important to just Google versus just waiting on somebody to answer you on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. It's like, oh, you got all this power in your hand. Why don't you just search for it yourself and see what you can find? And it's not so much looking at one article and taking that as Bible. When I search or research, I go through several different ones to find any consistencies, any inconsistencies, and what makes sense. And that article really, really made sense. I want to try to just really find that this wasn't actually planned for this podcast, as far as to go down at least that rant or that rabbit hole. But here we are. I just thought that was interesting when it came across the part about nitrous oxide. Let's get back to this article. Watermelon contains lycopene, a blood pressure reducing antioxidant. Enjoying foods that are naturally red or pink in color, think tomatoes, guava, and of course watermelon, will give your body a boost of lycopene, an antioxidant that has been linked to favorable effects on high blood pressure and other cardiovascular disorders. In fact, high blood pressure, lycopene levels have been associated with lower levels of hypertension in people who are overweight and obese. Watermelon boosts blood pressure, balancing potassium. Potassium is a nutrient that is found in many foods, including watermelon. Since the American Heart Association recommends increasing potassium intake in adults with elevated blood pressure, enjoying some watermelon salsa or a tomato, watermelon, and avocado salad may help you meet your potassium quota for the day in a satisfying way. Again, the power of Google. I always associated potassium with bananas, as if it was the only fruit, as if it was the only vegetable that was high in potassium or beneficial in potassium. And it just takes a simple search, a simple Google search of what are some foods, fruits, vegetables, however you want to classify it, that are high in potassium. And just reading this article off to you in real time, looking at potassium Potassium has its benefits in lowering blood pressure. You just learn something new every day. So this is why I like to read these articles, read them off to you, because I am learning. So as I learned, I like to share with you. I never profess to know everything. And this is why I'm always on the hunt to know more, because I know for a fact I don't know everything. And I question a lot. And, one of them is, how do I lower blood pressure? How can I lower blood pressure? If somebody's been diagnosed with high blood pressure and currently takes high blood pressure meds, which is one, of course, you're going to look for the holistic route. What are some natural ways? What are things that I can include to help balance this pressure out, balance this high blood pressure out? Because it is important, because this is your life. You only get one life to live, and you only have so much time to get it right. Back to the article. Watermelon has no added sugars. Added sugars are often found in items like drinks and desserts and in many processed and packaged foods. Although many people use added sugars to satisfy a sweet tooth, research suggests that there is a link between consuming added sugars and increased blood pressure, particularly in older women. The good news is that the same negative effect that has not been reported with natural sugar intake, like the sugars naturally found in watermelon. So for those who have a wicked sweet craving, reaching for a slice of watermelon instead of a slice of cake may be a good solution. And this is another revelation that I believe I just found maybe within the last 6 months, is when it comes to high blood pressure, we don't associate sugar in regards to having an effect on high blood pressure. It's always been salt or sodium, right? Always watch your salt intake. Always watch your sodium intake. But sugar gets no smoke. Sugar gets no smoke. And sugar is in so much of our food. Let me correct. Added sugars. Added sugars are in so much of our daily foods. And this is why it is important to learn how to read nutritional labels for your benefit. Because if you know you have to watch your sugars. I'm sorry. Voice dried out. If you have to watch your sugars or your added sugars, this is why it's important to read nutritional labels so you can know exactly what it is that you need to consume and what not to consume, or what to stay away from. Back to the article. Simple ways to eat more watermelon. Obviously, the simplest way to enjoy a watermelon is to slice it up and eat it on its own. But there are so many other ways to eat watermelon all year long. From whipping up a simple watermelon gazpacho to freezing fresh chunks to enjoy as an icy treat. The possibilities are endless. And nothing beats a fresh watermelon agua fresca to quench even the strongest thirst. Including watermelon in your diet can give your body a boost of L-citrulline and lycopene without any added sugar. So the next time you take a juicy bite of that craveable red melon, know that you are not only getting a bite of naturally delicious food, but you are also fueling your body with nutrients that may help manage high blood pressure too. So this article titled "The Number One Food to Eat to Lower Blood Pressure According to a Dietitian," written by Lauren Maneker, MS, RDN, LD, CLC, published on September 16th, 2020. at eatingwell.com. And I will have this article linked in the description of this podcast. This article stood out to me because it hits home, because I do have high blood pressure and I'm always looking for foods, naturally holistic foods to eat, to consume, that can help benefit and lower it. Because nobody wants to be on medicine. Nobody wants to be on, let's say, medication for the rest of their days. And if there is a way to, let's say, reduce your dosage or completely eliminate, then why not look for it and just go for it, right? Why not? Why not? Why not? And I've always liked watermelon. I've always loved watermelon. I have a gallon of fresh watermelon juice right now in my refrigerator that I am getting ready to pour into my 32-ounce mason jar and drink before I go work out. And it also just gives me a boost of energy just as well. It's very easy to slice. If you want to eat it without juicing it, that's fine too. I like juicing mine because it's just, just grab and go. It's just grab and go for me. What I will do is link my YouTube videos of how to cut a fresh watermelon and how to juice a fresh watermelon. And I also have a recipe of my watermelon fruit smoothie. I dice papaya, bananas, berries, and strawberries, and a couple other different fruits. And I bag it all up and I put it in the freezer. That way I have my smoothie prep, right? And that way, once I'm ready to make a smoothie, I just grab the frozen fruit out of the freezer and pour it into my blender. We'll put it in my blender, then pour my watermelon juice in it. And I call it a watermelon fruit smoothie. So I will have all of that linked in the description or the show notes. I'm never 100% sure of how to classify that. But anyway, it will be in the description, which I think is a universal place where everybody goes to get additional information for, say, podcast or YouTube videos or whatever. But yes, this article, as I stated earlier, hit home, and hopefully you can get something out of this and do your additional research. Do your additional research on some natural foods or natural fruits and vegetables, or just natural ways to help decrease your high blood pressure. If you found inspiration in today's podcast and would like to support, then sign up to my weekly newsletter, the Success Fitness Newsletter. You'll get access to my new ebook, How Many Calories Should I Eat? It's a guide with resources within to find your daily caloric intake to ensure success in reaching your fitness goals. You'll also get access to my private Facebook community, Success Fitness Family, and weekly emails when this podcast publishes every Sunday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. The link to sign up to the Success Fitness Newsletter will be in the description. Thank you for listening to the Success Fitness Podcast. And remember this, if it's not making you stronger, chant more weight, more weight, more weight. Peace out.